Today I'm joined by Maurice Philogene. His background is amazing. After first attempting an NFL career, he spent more than 20 years concurrently operating as an executive with Accenture and as a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. On top of that, he spent 12 years serving his community as a police officer. But there's more. All the while, he was hustling his way to freedom in the real estate game, to the point where he co-founded Quattro Capital, a real estate firm specializing in multifamily investments. On top of all this, he's now giving back even more through philanthropy today. Phew! I'm so impressed every time I review Maurice's background. I give this information as background as we spent our time in this episode discussing his driving aim, freedom. As a self-described freedom fighter, he highlights what he learned working within corporate and bureaucratic systems, and how we can all design a lifestyle that's just dripping with freedom. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. I am your host, Matthew Doan. Today's organizations are powered by digital capabilities, cloud, data science, cybersecurity, and much more. To be competitive, we must have tech-savvy leaders steering the ships. But these people don't come out of thin air. We must develop them. This show is for the technical experts of the world, those brave souls that feel unheard and lost in the crowd, but know they were born to lead. We need you to rise, to become impactful digital leaders. In these episodes, we help you undergo a self-transformation, developing the mindset and skill set that'll massively enhance your abilities, influence, and career potential. We take a different approach, pulling in lessons from philosophy, psychology, neuroscience, and history to enrich the professional and personal aspects of your life. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. Now, let's dig in. Mo, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Of course, brother. Nice to see you. Nice to finally get on here with you. It's been a minute.
Oh, it's been a great set of interactions since we met in the fall. So Let's get straight into it.
Sure.
You have a home base of DC, and you have a deep love of the Mediterranean. What's that all about? And what do you feel when you're there?
Yeah, that's a good point. I am based in DC, Maryland to be exact. I got down here from Boston when I went to University of Virginia, stayed in the area. And as you know, my corporate company hired me and I stayed in DC, and I have a family here. The Mediterranean piece came in because in 2015, I ran a field office for my federal law enforcement agency in Western Turkey. And I just felt connected. Actually, I was in the Aegean region at the time. I felt so connected. And when I started traveling around the country for personal and business reasons, I ended up in southern Turkey, which was on the Med. I just fell in love with the region. There's something about the food, the people, the way life feels. I knew that eventually, in some capacity, I wanted to either live there, do business there, something. So it was plugged into my mind since 2015. That's how it all started.
I know that feeling in a sense. When I first met my now wife, the first trip I took her on was to the Greek islands.
Yeah.
And those waters, the culture, I just remember these amazing memories of being on a ferry between islands, and life was so blissful. It was amazing. Yeah. There's something about the region just enraptures you, you know?
It does. And it's not something that's easily describable because there's nothing wrong with where we are now. It's just that when you're there, it just feels different. People move in a different way. Things are a bit slower, more intentional about life. So it's just it's a good thing. And I'm glad I found it because it helped me figure out who I am, the style of person that I am too.
Sometimes travel is the thing that unlocks that.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. That's a good start. Mo, as we get moving here, it would be helpful if you could just give a little bit of your backstory and what you're doing here today.
That's what's up. So my backstory, actually, let me start with where I am now. I think that's better. So I'm 46. I am out of the W-2 world. I am a dad of two. I retired this year, or in the last few months, from Accenture, which is my corporate company of 25 years. I retired from being a police officer of roughly 15 years, and then retired from the military back in late 2019. I am a real estate guy, but I am a real estate guy because of the notion of freedom, like you and I always talk about. So the story starts as when I was 21, I was reading a book, Personal Finance for Dummies, and I saw a passage in there on passive income. I understood the concept of it. And I already had this notion in my mind that I did not want to sit behind a desk for the rest of my life if I had a choice. It's not that I don't like to work. I love to work, but although I'm slowing it down now. So I have always been on this notion of freedom, if you will. I found real estate in my early 20s, worked extremely hard at any job that I had. I stored my paychecks. As soon as I had enough to buy an asset, I did. And over the years, I paid off a lot of single family homes. And it got me to a point in 2015 where that passive income was equaling or just a little bit better than the salary that I was making at my corporate firm. At that point, though, Matt, and you know this, right? Once you have enough money to take care of your basic needs, you start to see that life is not about money at all. Because it's just not. Like, once you kind of get to that point, but it is about challenges. And my next challenge was jumping into something like multifamily. So I flipped over into other businesses, including buying apartment complexes. I started a company called Quattro Capital with 4 other amazing partners. And that's just where I sit now. Everything on my business journey now is to take care of family and for philanthropy reasons. But it all started because when I was 21, I had this notion of this word freedom, and it came in the form of passive income, and I just went after it. And to the extent that I talk about a lot, I had entrepreneurial depression in my late 20s into my early 30s, into my mid 30s, really, because I was so focused on it, maybe to a fault. But now when I look back on it, I would never change it because here I sit at 46, myself and my family, we have a lot of options. So that's kind of how the journey manifested itself. And then just one more quick thing from a personal perspective, just like you and I were talking about, travel has always been there because that's how I've stayed connected to constant learning, like immersing in cultures and being around the world and not thinking that the world is just where you live. So 100 countries, over 300 times. It's been one heck of a ride so far, and there's a lot more to do too.
Oh, that's a beautiful journey, Mo. There's something which I still can't comprehend is how you were in corporate for 25 years, military, and in the police force. That is amazing. And I know you've unpacked that in other episodes and stuff like that. That's a hell of a story. And I encourage people, we can link to those episodes. But I also want to hit on the notion you described passive income. Yeah. And it's a big topic. It's probably one of the leading hashtags on something like LinkedIn today. And people need to understand that per your journey, there's nothing passive about getting it started.
No.
There's a lot of active work. And my goodness, the learning you did, the sheer force of will to bring that to life because you were driven by this notion of freedom. Could you talk a little bit on just that active nature and how people need to understand the active nature to get to passive income?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're unpacking that because we do talk a lot about passive income, but there's nothing passive about it at the beginning. So that's the work. I am very conscious and was in my 20s about doing the 3, 4, 6 months, 24 months of hard work to put an asset into play and then maintaining that asset such that it now does the work for you. That's what passive income is. So if I was buying a condo, because that's what I did back in the day, was buy condos, the active part of that was going to work for Accenture, my company, or the police officer stuff, storing money from that paycheck, saving it, going to work again, saving it, but being smart enough to go buy an asset with it, get a property manager, install a good resident, then have the property manager take care of it from there, optimize that property, go through the ups and downs of markets or what have you. But get that thing, that asset, whether it's real estate or anything else. It could be writing a book that will give you intellectual property and passive income later, right? getting that thing plugged in such that it takes care of you in the future. And that's what has happened to me. I've had this path of consistency probably from age 21 to age 42, and it was relatively consistent, and it was a 3-degree angle, right, going up. And it was around 42 or 43 that it started, this exponential thing started to happen where those assets started buying other assets, right? And now it's kind of like this self-fulfilling thing where, okay, I put in all the work to create those passive income streams. Now those streams are available for us to live on. And now I'm like reinvesting in day-to-day life, right? Like I'm redoing my house now. I'm going to I bought my son a car over the weekend, et cetera, et cetera. But to your point, it was, it was 2 decades of like grinding it out to put all these things into play. So I'm glad you said that, because I don't want people to think it's like, oh, it's easy. You snap your finger and then you create streams of income. That's just not the way it works. But the work that I put in over time is definitely something that I'm benefiting from right now, as my family will as well.
Yeah. And it's creating this freedom that you've had in your mind since your early 20s. You describe yourself as a freedom fighter, and I love that concept. Could you describe why that's meaningful to you? And also, what are those freedom principles that you so often talk about?
Yeah, I describe myself as a freedom fighter. The reason why I say that is I don't crap on corporate. I don't. Yeah, a lot of people shit on it, and hey, you get out of there as fast as you can, and I don't think that's the case. I think we are taught in formal school to shut up, look forward, do your assignments, get a good job, find a good partner for life, hunker down, and that's life. And that is not life. We should all be free in some form. That is where those freedom principles come in: financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, freedom of purpose, and freedom to build meaningful relationships, because we need other people to grow. I never want to be the smartest person in the room, ever. Um, but people can have freedom, and it doesn't have to come just from financial gain. I have a friend of mine. We were best friends in high school, and she saw me make a post on an apartment complex, and she hit me up on Facebook and said, "Maurice, I saw that. That's amazing, but I can't do that." But I told her she's freer than most people because she's an immigrants' rights attorney. She graduated from Yale. She could be at some huge firm making $1 million, but she does immigrants' rights for 70 grand, 80 grand a year. She's happy. She's executing on her purpose. You can be free that way. But I like to help people create whatever freedom lifestyle makes sense for them. It does not have to necessarily deal with passive income. There was someone else who was corporate in New York. All she wanted to do, man, was be in Europe. So I kind of helped her and convinced her. She left her job of 200 grand. She's living in a co-living facility in Portugal now. And she makes 75 grand now just doing odd development work here and there. And then she opens her door at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and she's in glorious Portugal and she's exploring Europe however she wants to. So that's her definition of freedom. This thing that we've done where we're supposed to get titles and paychecks, and the next thing is going to be that thing that makes you the happiest, the next title, the next job, the next whatever. It just doesn't work that way. So, freedom fighter, yes, giving people motivation to figure out what their own free lifestyle is, and it can be created in many, many ways. Mine just happens to come from executing on real estate all these years and my ability to travel and having a good family and those types of things. But I like that statement because there's a lot of ways we can be free, and we need it. We need that time or that setup to access the planet the way we were intended to when we were born. Otherwise, we're just sitting in an office on K Street in DC for the rest of our lives, and I have no interest in doing that whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh, man. We've created, since the industrial era, so many reasons not to be free. And we've created a new idea of freedom, which is insane, which is I'll get it when I get that next rung on the ladder, right? And it's just, we all know in our souls, that's not what freedom feels like. We all know the stories of people that rise to the top and they feel empty inside. We know that intellectually, and yet so many people still pursue that path. That's honestly where my heart's gone over the last year or so, Mo, is I see people in these corporate realms
Yeah.
who follow the default script. And
Yeah.
I was there like for 10 years. I was following this. I thought I was going to be happy when I got this notoriety, and it never came. Now, I'm not at all shitting on corporate either, because that there are some
Oh, dude.
great cultures. It has amazing utility at the very
Uh,
minimum,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like you're describing, it can enable great levels of freedom, but it's people that you need to unlock and change your mindset on what it can be, what it should be, and make sure that you're treating your heart's desires, your goals, your definition of success. That needs to be top of mind, not
Yeah.
someone else's definition of success. And then figure out, how does a corporate environment play a role in your success?
That's it. That's it. And I was smart about it. I do give myself credit for not falling into that trap. I used my corporate experience, my working intentionally, buying assets all the time. What I didn't do, I didn't go to all the networking events. I didn't mesh with the culture because it didn't make sense for me. So I think I've posted about it before, but I turned down being a partner at my firm. Excuse me. I turned down going into the process to be a partner, because I don't want to say I turned down being a partner, but I turned it down 4 times. The last time I got promoted was 2013. I was the same level last year when I retired in 2021. I was a senior manager for 7 years, and it would confuse people. I kept getting asked, but here's why I didn't go that route. Because for the relative 40 hours I was working, and for the maybe 100 grand to 200 grand eventually in salary that I was getting, it was enough. It was the utility that you talk about. I used that paycheck as a utility to set myself up for the rest of life. I created businesses outside of my normal job. I had experiences outside of my normal job. I told them, look, I'm going to grad school so I can get another shot at the NFL. How are you going to support me do this? Because I'm out. They supported it. I'm about to go be a police officer. I got this life to live, and I'm burning to go help my community. How are you going to support it? They found somebody in there found a way to support it. But it is a utility, and they are only responsible for the wage they promised to give us for the time that we are trading. That's it. We are responsible for using that wage and experiences and skills that we get from there to create our own level of happiness on the outside, you know? So I love how you say that it is definitely a utility that needs to be used. People should be intentional about it, but where they struggle is just seeing their peers doing things. So people start emulating what their peers are doing. I kind of fight against that method, if you will. And that's kind of where the freedom fighter thing comes in a bit, but it's tough. It's tough for people to see their peers doing stuff and not do it.
It really is. You have to intentionally fight that gravitational pull, right? Of everyone's going this way, but
Yeah,
my heart's pulling me somewhere else, and I want this level of freedom, so I got to put in the work. It's
that's right.
hard. You mentioned moving towards a lifestyle. And
Hmm.
this is one of my little obsessions that I think we have in common, is this idea of lifestyle design.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would love if you could give us maybe some insight into how you help people, coach people. Is there a framework on how do you think about lifestyle design so you can start moving towards that freedom you desire?
yeah. I mean, so when coaching or otherwise, like I talk to people, excuse me, I talk to people about this stuff all the time. Those freedom principles, I think, if you can focus on one or more of them, they can help give you the lifestyle that you care about. So financial freedom is an obvious one. I think it's just more passive income than expenses, passive income or income streams than expenses. Because if you have 20 million in the bank and you're using that to live, eventually it's going to go to zero. We need passive income, right? Um, but I study those concepts like mobility and geographic freedom. We tend to be happier when we're having experiences in different places. And that could be down the street. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the Mediterranean or whatever. It could be in Alabama or California or Denver or something like that. but I will look for formulas like freedom equals time plus mobility. If you can create time and be mobile within that time, you tend to feel like you have more freedom. Where people have that stuck feeling is when they're pressing repeat every single day, right? And they're getting in the car, going through rush hour, getting on the train, eating Subway sandwiches for lunch, going back home, pressing repeat, doing it again. So financial freedom is an easy one. Financial freedom can create time, right? Because it will give you time. Other ways you can create time is by getting rid of the nonsense, networking events that make absolutely no sense, non-productive activities, binge watching Netflix on a weeknight, all that type of stuff. The geographic freedom, I think, is a sneaky one. People don't realize that they feel stuck, and all they got to do is get up, maybe travel hack a little bit like I do, which is why I'm usually in some country every month by travel hacking. It just makes you feel better as a human, like you're accessing the earth. And then lastly, because I did talk about purpose and relationships, I didn't go be a police officer for the money, obviously. I did it because it was purposeful to me. I felt good. It gave me the energy to work full time as a corporate exec during the day and then full time as a police officer at night and find time to sleep in the cracks because I had purpose. If you have freedom of purpose, there's a reason why you get up every day, right? So to get into that policing space, I went and made relationships at a particular police department and told them what I was going to do. I am always looking for relationships for that next thing to design your life. So, hey, how did you get to the Mediterranean and start doing real estate there? I actively was seeking relationships on the island of Cyprus and eventually found a particular relationship. It's a husband of a friend I graduated college with. I just never knew she was married to a Cypriot. 3 weeks later, I was at their house in Cyprus. I don't wait. You have to intentionally go after those things that make your lifestyle better as an investment. Here I am, a businessman, doing active business on the island of Cyprus with a new business partner who's now my newest friend, who is helping me create a dual lifestyle between DC and the Mediterranean. That was intentional. There's a lot of ways you can go about this lifestyle design, but we got to be intentional about it. And to your point, Matt, use things like corporate and other normal things in our life as utility to create the lifestyle that we want. So financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, executing on your purpose, and then finding relationships that'll help you grow. That's kind of how I coach people to create the lifestyle of their choice.
It's empowering to see how you saw that relationship as key to your future and then pursued it quickly. I do not wait. I love that. How do you think about, say you're stuck and you want something more for yourself, you want more freedom, you want to use your skills differently. You knew the kind of person, at least right then, the type of person that would unlock a new door for you. How could the regular person find and surround themselves with different types of people that will give them ideas and energy? That's a question I get a lot. Like, I want to do something different. You tell me, Matt, to hang around other people, but I don't know who to hang around with.
Right.
Do you have any advice on that?
Find groups. Listen, I get that question too. And I'm talking directly to people who will listen to this thing. There's too many resources out there for you to not find people. Follow a hashtag. Find a Facebook group. Find someone whose life looks like what you want your life to look like and ask them questions. When I started traveling, I wanted to connect with more like-minded people. I'm about to plug something kind of, but I wanted to connect with more like-minded people who were like me and Matt, but we're doing it in an international perspective, right? I am a very quote unquote unsettled person. Meaning, I don't like I'm in Maryland today. I'm very happy to be with my kids and my family, what have you. I don't like sitting around for long periods of time. I feel unsettled. So I found a group called Unsettled, plug. I'm on their global advisory board now because I wanted to be a part of them. And it's just people from around the world who think like Matt and Mo. Okay, I found them, right? And I'm not saying everyone in that particular group is exactly thinking the way I am, but the notion of not doing life the way society says to is strong within that group. I want to be a philanthropist. I want my next job to be giving away money. I'm trying to figure out how to do it better. I followed hashtags on LinkedIn, found 3 particular people that made sense to me. I reached out to all of them. I offered money in exchange for their time to talk with me. I offered the money because people's time is valuable. That helped me construct what I did over the holidays, which was go door to door in Lebanon, and we paid for people's surgery because I realized that, hey, who's this black dude coming from the East Coast showing up on someone's doorstep on Christmas? Do you know the hope that gave people? But I intentionally went out to go seek people like that. So I followed the hashtag philanthropy, and I found people on LinkedIn. There's just too much out there. You want to travel with your kids? There's a group on Facebook called World Schoolers. It's families traveling with their kids and teaching their kids around the world. There's just too much out there for you not to find someone who's doing what it is that you want to do, and at least model it, and then mold it into what it should be for what you want for your life. So get out there and find the people who are doing things that you want to be doing.
I remember when I saw that video of you knocking on that door
Oh,
on
yeah.
Christmas. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it was so touching. Like I felt the journey of your life, all the hard work, the which I know about you, from online in our talks. I felt it transpiring, like culminating in that point. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I know you're only going to do more and more from here.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that's
addictive,
amazing.
man.
But I saw just the growth and this new level, this new plane that you're on now because of the hard work you've put in based on the vision you had.
I appreciate you saying that because it has been a journey. And like I said before, once you have a certain level of financial capability, you start to realize that, man, life was never about money at all. It truly is about helping people. I can't go pull burglars out of homes anymore or stop armed robberies and stuff like that, but I can create wealth with Quattro Capital and other business ventures, take some for my family, put a lot back out into the world, and keep doing good stuff. But that all came from not wanting to. I didn't want to follow the status quo. And you know what? You know how you see. I pay attention to wealthy people. I do. I've always noticed that the good wealthy people tend to give a lot of their money away, and I think I understand why now. Because if you're a good human, you realize you don't need that much, and then but you want to execute on business. I want my mind to create stuff. Like I want to do a deal with Matt, and then maybe we make $1 million. Matt keeps 200, I keep 200, and 600 goes to humanity or something like that. It's such a wonderful space to be in where I can do a deal, create wealth, and then go distribute that. And then my way of doing it, lastly, is I don't want to give to corporations or nonprofit things yet. I selfishly want to be part of that person's life, right? I like the going door to door, and I want to know that I move the needle for that person right there at that moment. So, like paying for someone's surgery that they couldn't afford it themselves, right? That impacts their life immediately. So, yeah, it's been a hell of a time, and the journey has kind of culminated at how do I be a philanthropist, and I'm trying to figure that out now.
There's something you've said a few times now is the notion and what you get out of feeling good. And there's nothing selfish about feeling good. Feeling good is vital. If we're going to have the energy to pursue our ideals, our mission, create impact in this world, to get up day after day, sometimes at 4 a.m., wink, wink, that is hard, right? You need to feel good. Whether, some people, like I was talking to a guy in a mastermind the other day that we're a part of, and he's buying this really expensive Porsche, not to show off, but to travel around the streets with that thing top down to feel good about himself. And he knows by feeling good, he's going to be way more impactful for other people. And we can all define what it means to feel good. Sometimes it's philanthropy. Sometimes it's a material good. Sometimes it's spending time with people, giving your advice. There's so many ways, but we have to be selfish so that we can be selfless, right? We have to be able to do that.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm so happy you said we have to be selfish so we can be selfless. I gave the example to someone of like I used to volunteer a lot at shelters and stuff. There's nothing wrong with it, giving your time. But then I realized my contribution is best to the world and even to the people who are in the real estate space with me by focusing hard on the deals that we do, or like Quattro Capital stuff. And then not only am I empowering people who weren't in deals before because now they're in deals, but then I'm creating wealth and then I can go move the needle for whole communities, right? So it's okay to be selfish to then be selfless. But if you stay on the selfish side, your meaning is nothing as far as I'm concerned. If you start giving back to people, that's when you know that you're really living in a good way. So when you said that phrase, it sent a chill through me because that's kind of where things are now. And my family too, right? I was selfish for a long time with my time. Part of me, quote unquote, retiring last year, even though I was making the most money actively I've ever made, I was making about $350 a year, and I said no, and I left. Was because my family needs my time more now. I got an 8-year-old and a 22-year-old, and I am always around. I'm available because I was selfish before. We have the resources that I can now be selfless and be around them more. Be better as a father. It's something I'm working on, and then continue to give back to community. But that's an awesome statement that you just said. I hope people pick up on it.
Well, you're living it, so keep going with it.
Yeah.
Mo, so in the notion of lifestyle design, you're painting a picture for us on how you like to spend your time. Just to
Mm-hmm.
make it real for someone, if you were to like lay out an ideal week and then maybe like how would that week unfold, or maybe how would the ideal day look as well? This is the nitty gritty that I
This is
think
nitty
people want to
gritty.
learn from people like you.
I wasn't today, but I am always up at 4 a.m. All right, so let me just go through a week. It's up 4 a.m. 4 to 8 a.m. is working out and then doing real estate work always. Nowadays, it's more working out because I'm okay with the real estate stuff. But that's 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Um, yeah, and then it used to be Accenture, police, whatever during the day, and then work a little bit on the hustle at night again. Nowadays, though, it's I do the 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. I do a little bit of work during the day. I am always planning some kind of trip somewhere. So I think in the last 2 months, goodness, Germany, south of France, Lebanon, Cyprus, Mexico. I have to be in St. Lucia in 2 weeks. I'm always like creating things for me to get involved in because it makes me feel good, as you said. Um, but you know, the waking up at 4 a.m. thing and always on the hustle and what have you, I do that because that time of day, there is nothing that can slow you down ever. Anything after 8:30 p.m. when my little one goes to bed, it's wasteful for me. All be doing is up watching TV or something like that. I'm usually like 30 minutes behind him and in bed by 9 o'clock because I'd rather wake up at 4 a.m. and get it in. So that's how I hustle. I'm up at 4 a.m. Gym, like real estate stuff, business stuff, calls overseas because they're already up. Um, yeah, and I just stick with it. And I'm constantly traveling somewhere. So maybe not so much a life in a day, but that's kind of what my schedule is looking like nowadays.
Yeah. It's geared towards the freedom you crave, and you know what your priorities are, being there for your family, but also building time in to keep you fresh, whether
Yeah.
that's going to the gym or being on the move somewhere else, because you know new environments, new geographies, new people keep you invigorated and keep you
Yes.
going. And you're
Yeah.
just designing intentionally.
You got it. And you articulated it well, man. There should be movement in life. I don't like being stagnant, and people, new opportunities, new cultures give me that motion that I need to have the lifestyle that I want.
Yeah. Movement doesn't happen in cubicles.
No, no. Just thinking about that actually kind of irks me now that I sat for years like that. But again, it's a utility. You use it, but then like use it, but man, I want people to feel what I'm feeling. Just the total freedom to move about the planet and be engaged with people. And um, yeah, I just hope people get there in their own, whatever their own way is. I just want people to feel the way I'm feeling connected to the world at the moment.
Man, my heart is pumping faster as you're talking. Like, whew, I love this stuff. Like you're really inspiring. I love how you're living your life. Mo, do you mind if we switch to a little rapid fire questioning?
Hit it.
Sweet
Wherever you want
deal.
to go.
All right. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I'm going to give two real quick. One, when I was doing the real estate stuff in my 20s, a broker who I met told me, Maurice, don't go buy the big dodo egg. Buy 12 dozen. Sorry, it was condos. She was like, buy 12 dozen condos and pay them off. She told me that. What? She's like, if you pay them off, then you're going to create a salary. It was because of this one broker statement that put me on the journey from '02 to 2015 of buying all these condos and paying them off. So I have to say that that was one of the best pieces of advice I got. And then one that I just created on my own is you just do and you course correct along the way. I'm not the best businessman. I'm not the best real estate investor. I'm not. I'm just really good at jumping and just course correcting as I go. And I've had more wins than losses. But I just run towards it. So course correct, do and course correct along the way.
Hmm. And what's the worst piece of advice you've received?
Just go get to the next level. Get to the next level. You should be a colonel. You should be a general. You should be this. You should be that. I fell into the trap a couple times and then course corrected myself. But that stuff doesn't make you happy. That stuff is someone else's definition. You got to do what's right for you. But you always get it from people who are in positions that they think that that is the pinnacle, and it's not. You got to figure out your own pinnacle.
Yeah. That's the only life they know, so they
Yeah.
believe that should be everyone's definition of success. But
Yeah.
when you look outside and you see others doing things differently, sometimes you get triggered to do something like that.
That's right. That's right.
How did it feel when you no longer had a W-2? Like the day after, how was that?
I had to break habits, man, because the last work I had was on October 31st officially. So on November 1st, when I woke up, I still went to my phone and I looked for email from work. 30 days after finally retiring from all of those employments, I was struggling because you don't realize how much your identity is wrapped up. But once I finally got over it, this is the beauty. My head was so full of other people's missions, the mission of my company, the mission of my police department. I didn't realize how full my brain was. I have become such a creative person ever since I was able to put down everyone else's problem. I have picked up my own problems and dreams and wants and desires and those of my kids, and I'm doing better at creating them. I feel free. It was almost like shackles were being taken off. And now that I have the brain capacity available to execute on dreams and helping other people, it's funny. I created other streams of income related to consulting and coaching and things of that nature. I'm not even missing a beat from the salary that I had before because my brain was creative enough that I was like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, and create the same amount of money with less time commitment. So that's what it feels like. Your brain becomes available. It is mine now. I got it back. It's like it's been on loan for the last 25 years, right? And they finally gave me my damn brain back and I am executing on it. So that's what it feels like. It feels like something has been lifted and you are able to focus on your own life.
Ooh, that rent-a-brain construct. That doesn't seem so healthy in the long run,
No,
right?
I've never said
Oh,
that before, but that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
you have two kids.
Yeah.
What's one lesson you'd like to instill in them?
I do instill it now that they have two responsibilities in this life. One, to learn how to make money grow. It's all I ask of my kids. One is to learn how to make money grow, and the second is to be happy. That's all a parent's job is to make sure your kids are happy. If my boys, well, one of them did, but if Noah, my youngest, wants to go to college, great, but I'm not. I'm not sold on the concept of it at all. He only has to learn how to make money, and he's watching make money grow, and he's watching me do it. And he asks me a lot of questions. He knows the difference between an asset and a liability. He knows why I buy apartments. He knows what passive income is. He knows why dad flies to the Mediterranean and leaves sometimes. Um, but that's what the lessons for them. They have to learn how to make money grow, and they have to genuinely be happy in this lifetime.
If you were starting your career right now, what advice would you give to yourself?
Work harder. I barely slept, but I would have wanted to have worked harder faster. I exited everything at 46, right? I think that's phenomenal, given that my dad exited at 62, excuse me, 15 years later than me. My father was a school principal and teacher in the Boston, Massachusetts school system for 30 years. So he got a great pension and he's fine. But I asked him about that, the fact that I exited everything at 46, and he said, I wish I would have left earlier, because he had a chance to take an early pension at 55 and he didn't. And he said, there are things that I want to do now because that time is gone. There's no way for me to go back and get it. The money wasn't worth it, right? So the advice I'd give my young self is work as hard as you were working, invest more, spend less. Invest more, spend less. I could have executed my plan faster. I just wasn't aware of it. I certainly wouldn't change the journey though, Matt. I mean, I ended up in the right place at the right time. But now, understanding that time is the only asset we truly have, I wish I would have gotten here 10 years ago. And I could have with the knowledge that I had.
Amazing reflections.
Yeah.
So just a few things to wrap up, Mo.
Yeah.
I like to always ask this, given it's the Rising Digital Leader Show. How do you rise each day?
How do I rise each day? Brother, purposefully. That's it. I mean, I'm aware of it, right? I am aware I need to have a purpose to get up to do the things that I do. My purpose is helping people find their own level of freedom. My purpose is giving back to community. My purpose is getting on platforms like yours that's trying to educate people, giving my time so people have a set of resources they can use to create their own lifestyle. So it's just purposefully. I'm trying to reflect as we're talking. I think that's what gets me up every day. Just that word, and knowing that I'm trying to execute on my own personal mission, which is to help people. I've always been like that. Police, military, even in consulting. And now I just kind of do it this way, and giving people some motivation and information to create their own life.
It resonates with me as you're talking. I can see how you're living that way, Mo. How can people connect with you more online?
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's just, I'm certainly active on LinkedIn. It's just Maurice Philogene. I talk a lot about the concepts we talked about. Lifestyle stuff on Instagram, Maurice Philogene. And Facebook as well. I don't use it as much. It's Maurice Philogene. And then my company, the company I started with partners, is Quattro Capital. It's thequattroway.com, QUATTROWAY.com. We are add value real estate investors. We'll buy apartment complexes, improve them, improve the quality of life for the residents, improve the value for the investors, and get a good return back to people. But it's all purposeful, right? We can help residents and we can help investors. We can do good while doing well. But they can find me there too at thequattroway.com.
To summarize our conversation today, I feel really inspired. Like I said, my heart's beating faster. This notion that you had this freedom guiding light and you didn't know quite what it meant early, but you defined it as you went. You understood what utility was available to you in your different jobs, and then you maximized that, right? You were still driving towards this idea of your definition of freedom, and then you were able to help others more and more as you went. It's this persevering attitude. And then I just want to put a pin in the notion of feeling good. We came back to this a couple of times, but the more that you can feel good and do things, whatever those things are, whether it's travel, whether it's getting up early, working out, that gives you energy, gives you light to keep sustaining your mission. So I just wanted to point that out. You're
Yeah.
exemplary in that, Maurice. So, whew, any closing message you'd like to leave with our audience today?
Yeah, life is more than sitting in the office. There is this big blue planet out here that's available to anyone who can create a lifestyle such that they can access it. So I just, please, like, don't waste your life. We all have to work. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But there are ways to create lifestyle such that you can access the planet as intended when you were born here. So figure it out. Be part of a family that will support you getting there, because there are sacrifices to be made, right? And just execute on it and don't wait. Your goal for life is your goal. It's not what the TV tells you or what your boss is telling you or whatever. Create your lifestyle, execute on it, and go live happily.
Well said. Thanks for the time, my friend. We'll connect more soon.
Thanks, brother.
This is your host, Matthew Doan. Thank you for listening to the Rising Digital Leaders Show. Again, my mission is to help you elevate your career as a digital leader and live a thriving life. I hope this episode sparks new thinking and helps you take meaningful action in your world. If you enjoyed the experience, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed and left a 5-star review. That's it for now. Until next time, my friends, stay virtuous.